think for many people who don't have faith, they think that if they had faith, then they wouldn't feel any loss or grief, for instance, when someone died who they loved. But faith in Jesus doesn't stop loss and grief. Today, before Jesus raises Lazarus, he weeps over his friend. Jesus is the resurrection and the life, and he says that just before the little bit of the full story that we read today. And that good news is, if you like, I was so struggling for the language here, but it's added into the grief and loss that we all experience. But it doesn't prevent grief and loss. I mean, even Jesus today, we've just been reading, this is chapter 11 of John's Gospel. So all through the Gospel, we're getting all these great claims of Jesus. He is the bread of life, the living water, the light of the world, the good shepherd, etc. All of these claims, and yet even he himself, at the death of his friend, experiences loss and grief. And perhaps today, like it is in our funeral service, the Anglican funeral service, this is what we say, that as we come to remember someone who we loved who has died, we're also confronted with our own death. Perhaps today he was confronted with his own death, and he knew that his mother and his friends would also have to grieve him. There is no path to resurrection that does not pass through this darkness. For Jesus today, and for him on that first Good Friday, there's no way to then get to Easter Sunday except through the cross. By grieving and feeling loss, to weep at the entrance of the tomb isn't a lack of faith. I think that's so important for us to remember. Faith is activated precisely as we know the darkness. The darkness can deepen our faith. It doesn't eliminate the loss and grief in that sort of crass way that someone without faith might think. It is inserted into that loss and grief. So today and on the cross and in the resurrection, Jesus doesn't display any dismissal of the deadliness of death. But he does have what we might call faith in his Father, who is greater than death. Jesus says today in this story of the raising of Lazarus that he is the source of this life for us. And yes, so throughout the Gospel of John, we hear that he is the resurrection and the life, the living water, the light of the world, the bread of heaven, the good shepherd, the vine from which we are nourished. And yet he grieved the death of his friend. Jesus himself died, but death in all its deadliness and finality is not greater than God. Amen.